Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Kiarash Aalipour, and I'm honored to be your moderator today. Thank you all for joining us. In this session, we have two speakers and two standalone presentations. Allow me to introduce our speakers. Soheil Rezanejad is a PhD student at Tehran University in Iran and a researcher in the field of communication, political economy, digital work, and technology. His research and presentation topic is Digital Labor in Iran, a case study of online ride-sharing drivers. And our next speaker is Behdad Bordbar. Behdad Bordbar is a researcher and journalist with a master's degree in social studies. And he will discuss an interesting topic, especially for football fans, understanding the complexities of Iranian football fan culture. As you've noticed probably, Behdad Bordbar is here, so welcome. Thank you. But Soheil Rezanejad will be joining us online. So we are going to watch Soheil Rezanejad's presentation. Thank you.
Today, I want to offer a concise report from my findings during a field research among online taxi drivers working for Snap, a major online urban transportation platform and Uber counterpart in Iran. What I'm about to recount can be considered a collective story or a sort of history from below. As such, I will not reflect on technological aspect of this specific form of digital labor. Rather, I will demonstrate how this technological aspect has enabled the reviving and continuation of an old labor relationship, that of the day labor. Following works by Mohammad Malju, among others, regarding the mechanisms of dispossessing the masses, I will also discuss what I call technologies of dispossession. In the beginning, my research adhered to the strategies common mostly to the organizational ethnography, that is to say, an anthropological stance suited for ameliorating the workplace condition, or more generally, the exploratory phase of research. The questions were generic and not grounded. I was asking the subjects of my inquiry to relate their problems. Were they satisfied with their jobs? Whether they had access to health insurance and social security? Did the staff protect them from the usual workplace incidents? And what were their demands from the company? Of all the people I interviewed, only Maryam wanted access to health insurance, a middle-aged woman who lives with her husband and their young daughter. Her husband had suffered a stroke 2 years prior and required a constant care ever since. Before that, he was a professor at a local university. Thereupon, they had sold their house and rented a small apartment, and Maryam, who used to be a housewife, became the sole source of income for the family, working regularly as a driver in a Snap. Hers was a case of a family going through bankruptcy as a result of a health problem and the lack of social safety nets. Contrary to Maryam, most other drivers did not want to be insured. For them, insurance cost was seen as a surplus income, one that they did not have. Yet all, just like Maryam, complained that their income were blocked off by the company for several days. During the weekends, access to the money was blocked off for even longer periods. Some of the drivers regarded this situation as the company's dominance over the driver's salary, and some went so far as to call it a form of modern-day slavery. This situation would eventually come to a head, where most drivers asked passengers to pay them directly, practically blocking off the company of its share for several days. This led the company to arrange for the daily payments. Growing up in a working-class family, all that seemed too familiar to me. The moral code with which I was brought up was that you pay the worker before her sweat is dried up, particularly the day laborer who congregated not 10 minutes away from her home, waiting for a taskmaster to come and offer them a day's worth of labor. With these observations, the evidences I have to forego for the lack of time we have today, I want to posit that these drivers' conditions is similar to that of the day laborer. They too lack alternative work and are among the least protected and most poorly rewarded persons in the labor force. The economics of the labor depend deeply on saving essential costs, exclusion of the idle time from the working time, omission of all social safety nets, and evading all labor costs, lack of income security for the worker, elimination of the cost of providing resting places, toilets, and other spatial prerequisites for drivers, elimination of the cost of maintaining the means of labor, that is, cars, changing the legal status of the worker to that of the private contractor, etc. This marks a return of the working class condition to a previous unregulated state. It is not absurd to ask a snap driver, what is your job? In fact, I did not even notice how this question crept into the list of my basic questions for the interviews. But I remember the look on Muhammad's face when I asked him this. He was one of the drivers I used to casually interview during rides I had to take. He gave me a look of surprise, as we say, a look of a wise man at a fool. This is what I do, he insisted. Muhammad was a retired truck driver working a 4-hour self-imposed regular shifts of every night from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., the time when the city is neither asleep nor busy. This would provide him and his wife enough to live an easy life on pension. He used to be a driver and driver what he knew. The incidental recognition of the oddity of the situation led me to the exploration of its underlying conditions. These conditions typically fall under the rubric of precarity, yet I hold that at least three forces govern such a precarious condition. First, the immediate need for work and the lack of opportunity for well paid employment that leads the worker to a temp job. Second, the establishment of a certain discourse that represents a job as a temp job. And third, fictitious and subversive constraints that keep a job from acquiring the properties of a permanent job. In relation to the first two, I will add merely a few words, since I want to preserve more time for the third. First of all, as a result of the gradual decline of the minimum wage, worsening of the working conditions, and prevalence of temporary employment contracts, remuneration of labor in jobs such as driving for online services like a Snap has become relatively more adequate, and therefore the conditions of working for a Snap is actually preferable to other modes of employment. This was also intensified during the COVID pandemic. Secondly, a Snap tries to establish itself as a temp job, insisting on its fluid working hours and, ironically, the freedom to work whenever one pleases. This has been done through intense marketing campaigns, so much so that even the wordings of this message comes out of the mouth of complaining drivers. For example, one driver said Snap does not value its drivers, yet later he continued that Snap has several benefits. For example, I can work when I want to, I cannot tolerate having a boss, etc. Snap has always been expectedly overly active in creating the discourse around its benefits and values for the workers. One of the recent campaigns that again insist on it being a temp job is called "Wherever the Destination, Income is in its route." Furthermore, Snap primarily positioned itself as an alternative to previous modes of organizing labor in urban transportation sector. At the one hand, it was supposed to be an organized consolidation of small local phone taxi services or agence kiraya dispersed throughout the city. It eventually led to the bankruptcy and eradication of phone taxi. But by severely lowering the cost of transportation, Snap practically competed with shared and routed taxi services called green or yellow taxi according to their color, which is a local form of Russian marshrutka, which is historically organized as a labor union in Iran. For both these businesses with whom Snap competes, driving constitutes a permanent job. Thus, it had to develop strategies for combating such tendency under its own fleet of drivers. In order to escape legal constraints that ties a Snap to drivers in an employee-employer relationship, the company has drafted its EULA in such a way that defines the relation merely as that of an IT software and its user. All working relations between the driver and the passenger is considered immediate and merely between these two parties. In other words, a potential driver, by agreeing to this EULA, is rendered a user, a fictitious category invented in place of the worker. Users agree that a Snap is not a transportation service, but is merely a software service for, as it said in the EULA. Users accept that Snap is not a transportation service, but is merely a software service that provides communication between the ordering user and the driver user in order to agree on carrying the parcel or making a trip. In a Snap services, the driver user is free to accept or reject a request for transportation or trip, and the ordering user is also free to carry on with his request or not. Therefore, and this part is very important, therefore, any agreements made by users should be considered as an independent, necessary contract and contractual relationship between users, and the company is not a guarantor or of the competence, behavior, and actions of users towards each other, and it has no legal or criminal responsibility in this regard and the events during transportation. I should mention in passing that this issue was brought up in a ruling by the Competition Council where it was considering a complaint by phone taxi services or agence Kiarash. There, Snap, in its defense, insisted that its field of activity is different from that of other suppliers. The council did not accept this defense, arguing that the two companies, Snap and Taxi, use virtual infrastructure for operating in the field of urban transportation services and are practically competitors to that of the suppliers, of other suppliers, including the plaintiff. Therefore, the claim that their field of activity is different from that of the plaintiff is not accepted. Aside from this fictitious constraint, a subversive tendency is also recognizable, whereupon a subsurveillance of the media landscape enables the company to suppress negative news and, more importantly, identify and neutralize attempts at organizing labor, which, as evidenced by the abundance of names featuring syndicates or union in online communities, is severely needed by the community. For example, Snap preemptively established a pseudo-union body called Drivers Club or Bashgah Ranandegan, using its powerful online presence for suppressing grassroots formation of a union-like multitude. The company also uses its economic and political heft to convince popular activists to forego their platform. There are two sets of evidences for the latter. One was rumors from the bikers who attested that multiple times the leader of the strike was promoted to a position within the company and thus acted as a strike breaker. The other was the disappearance of a union-like forum merely days after an unsuccessful strike, in which I also participated as observer. It suddenly came over me. What am I doing here? A friend told me recently when I inquired about his situation working for a Snap as a driver. A flexible job he regarded as a vocation for supporting his ill wife had become the totality of his everyday life. Yet he, like others, was neither a driver nor what he dreamt of becoming. In the final analysis, he was dispossessed of a facet of his being. A Snap as a technology of disposition does not provide a job for drivers, rather for everyone else. In an apolitical narrative, working as a driver for a Snap is a transitional job. Hence, it serves as an excellent example of employment in modern Iran.
Many thanks to Soheil Rezanejad. Okay, our next speaker is right here, Behdad Bordbar. And I already introduced you, Behdad, but if you want to add anything or tell more about yourself, feel free to do so. Okay,
no, I don't want to talk about myself, but the other presentation was very interesting. The topic of precarious jobs in Iran is, new liberal policies they are implementing in Iran also, and this psychological aspect of that he also mentioned, that people say, oh, it's a part-time job and it is flexible. Transitional work, yes. So they kind of convince themselves that it's a good job, but at the same time, they lose their rights and there is no insurance, there is no, retirement payments. So there's, precarious jobs, and they can lose their job whenever the company wishes.
Sadly, that's the power of positioning, how to get into the mind of your target audience.
Yeah.
That could be beneficial, but in some cases, some companies actually are abusing it.
I read a part of my text, and then I have some slides, and I can talk about the slides.
First, please.
Initially, the question that I had regarding the football in Iran was that we had the Green Movement and we had a Jinab movement in Iran, and people were coming to the streets and demanding their rights. And at the same time, there were football matches, and some thousands of people, 40,000, 50,000 people go to football stadium and watch their football. So initially, I was thinking why these people are not joining the movement, and whether they are political or this is a segment of the society that doesn't care or is not, joining the political movement. That was the initial question. But when I went to the topic and I understood that this is a non-movement and they have their demands. It is not probably macro demands. It's not a revolutionary demand, but there are different instances that they demand something and they pressure to achieve what they want. So I read the text. This research explores the intriguing world of Iranian football culture with a particular focus on the passionate football fans in the metropolis of Tehran. The stadium serves as a microcosm of Iranian society, where thousands of fans come together to express their emotions, aspirations, and demands. Exceeding beyond the boundaries of football, this window opens to various dimensions, including political expressions, creative slogans, even vandalism and violent acts. Both pro-regime, religious utterances, and secular or anti-establishment behaviors or expression of individuality or resistance to traditional norms are visible in the football stadium. Iranian football fans often display their respect for national anthem, engage in Ashura ceremonies. Whenever it is Ashura, they do the chest beating before the match, and there is reading Quran, and people get silence, and so there are instances that commemorate the death of Hussein ibn Ali when it is Ashura, and practice chest beating as part of their cultural expressions. And the same people might boo the police or politicians at the stadium. There has been that incident also. So if I go to the research question that I want to discuss here is Iran is not a democracy, it's a totalitarian system. The regime wants to have total control, but football fans have found a space to demand whatever they want, kind of reform for the football, right? That is their focus. And that leads to the question that, like, when we have good governance, we have people who demand something. And it looks like some principles of good governance are visible in the field of football in Iran. The United Nations defines good governance as encompassing principles such as the rule of law, effective participation, multi-actor partnerships, political pluralism, transparent and accountable processes, and existence of institutions. So that is the definition of good governance. In this study, I explored the dynamics of football within an authentic system and analyzed how citizens advocate for transparency. My object is to identify instances where principles of good governance have been put into practice. The International Football Federation serves as a mechanism through which the Iranian regime can be pressured to comply with legal standards. So we remember that for many years, women were banned from entering the football stadiums, and part of the resistance or changing the rule was to communicate with FIFA and asking FIFA to pressure the Iranian Federation and say there will be sanctions if you don't let women enter the stadium. And first they resisted, and then they said, okay, some imagine there was a football match between Iran and South Korea. They said, okay, we let women to go to the stadium, but it was women from South Korea. And then the Iranian women said, no, okay, it is not fair. We want to go. And then they sold some tickets of, to trusted people, to loyalists, not everybody. So probably 1,000 women could enter to the stadium, but it normalized the situation, and step by step, because of the pressure of FIFA, this rule has been changed, and now more women have access to the football stadium. Additionally, citizens have voiced their demands for improved outcomes, transparency, and enhancement of football stadium, sometimes organizing protests in form of the federation, in front of the federation or football clubs. So, for example, in this summer, Persepolis is a very popular club, and they sold some of their old players, and they didn't recruit good players. And there was, for many days, there was a protest in front of the football club. It's not political, and the regime is not suppressing that in a way that it is suppressing, let's say, drivers or teachers when they have a union and they demand something. There is, it has consequences and they suppress them. But football fans, up to now, it seems that the regime is more relaxed about it and says, "Oh, it's not my problem. Let them, protest." But this protest is a form of resistance, and they learn to occupy the space and communicate with each other. And this is what we call civil society. So it is not totally a political act. It's a political act. And here I want to mention that people like Stuart Hall discussed cultural studies, kind of cultural studies that doesn't just include the high culture, but the culture of the people of, normal people, people of the street. Stuart Hall's cultural studies emphasizes the importance of understanding how culture is used and transformed by ordinary people and marginalized groups. He saw these groups not only as consumers or victims of the power, but also as potential producers of new culture values and languages that could challenge elites and foster resistance among the population. So, Stuart Hall's theory might be useful in analyzing the football fandom culture in Europe. Hall's approach to cultural studies was instrumental in shifting the focus from studying only high culture to examining popular culture and the everyday experiences of people. By doing so, he uncovered ways in which people could resist dominant cultural norms and structures, ultimately contributing to social change. So this social change, I will discuss it further when I show the PowerPoint. Now, in the picture, the text is in Persian, Sarjanjat Khaliye. You see a young boy sitting with his probably father among the others. I cropped the picture somehow. They all have blue t-shirts, and the other side they have red. So it is a derby match between Standalone and Persepolis. I will read I have explained this picture. A young boy holds an A4 paper close to the camera, hearing a message written in Persian, Sarjanjat Khaliye, or Dear Sahar, your seat is empty. This quiet nonverbal action speaks volumes without the need for sound. For reasons that will be explained, the blue of his t-shirt indicates support for Istiqlal, while those in the red t-shirts on the other side of the stadium are Persepolis fans, highlighting the rivalry between two popular clubs in Tehran. Since the boy holds a paper with a message in Persian, his intent is to communicate with the Iranian audience, distinguish it from messages in English intended for a broader international audience. His anxious gaze shifts towards the right, where police personnel stand, indicating a sense of urgency, possibly driven by the desire to capture this moment with the cameraman. So with the cameraman, that's supposed to be probably his father, they had a moment to show the paper and hide it again because of the presence of the guards and police. The sentence on the paper, though seemingly harmless, conveys a poignant statement on gender equality and the ongoing struggle for women's rights in Iran. Sahar Khodoyari, a football fan, was arrested in March 2019 for attempting to enter the Tehran's Azadi Stadium disguising as a man. As a boy, he dressed, and this is what women were doing before. It was not allowed to enter the stadium, so they had caps and hoodies, and they were trying to enter. But she was arrested. Unfortunately, she was arrested. Following her arrest, she spent several days in Qarechak prison before being released on bail. 6 months later, Sahar was summoned to the Revolutionary Court in Tehran, faced with charges of insulting officials and appearing in public without a hijab. She was informed she could face up to 6 months prison sentence. Overwhelmed by the potential punishment and her ongoing mental health struggles, Sahar tragically set herself on fire outside the courthouse and later died from her injuries. This deeply affected football fans in Iran. The image of this young boy with his sign conveys a deep sense of empathy and support for women who are banned from entering the football stadium in Iran. His nervous gaze towards nearby police officers also shows that underscores the risks involved in such an act of defiance. The silent yet potent gesture contrasts sharply with the indifference of the other surrounding crowds. So the others, whether it's a break or it is before starting the match, the others are not engaged in what they do, highlighting the broader societal detachment from the cause of gender equality in the public spaces. So we don't know really how much the others care about the cause that he has and the photo that he took. So somehow in this picture it seems two atomized individuals are trying to communicate with other strangers. The next one was Mohsen Mohammadpour. He was a teenage boy and he has a red jersey, Persepolis jersey, and he was shot and killed in the streets. It was, I think, protests of 2020. And he became also a symbol of resistance, and he was just 17 when he died, and he was working, and he was a child. So football has been intertwined with politics, and people who go to stadiums, they chant, they repeat their names, and they remember them. If we go to the next slide, I wanted to show that dissent in Iranian football is nothing new, but it existed. This is Nasser Hejazi. He was a goalkeeper for the national team and for Istiqlal, and later he was a coach. When he was a coach, and they had sometimes football matches in Ramadan, and during Ramadan it is not allowed to eat, drink, or smoke. And he was the one who was sometimes smoking, sometimes drinking, so like publicly showing that he's not following the rules. And because he was famous and he was very popular, so the regime couldn't do anything with him. I mean, probably he could be for example, coach for the national team or something, but he was so popular that he was not arrested. Okay, if you go to the next slide, in this slide, it is another example. Maili Kohan, he was contrary to the previous coach, who was secular and showing by his appearance. Sometimes he had neckties, and drinking. He's a very religious person, and demanding the players to participate in Islamic or prayers and ceremonies. So both exist. I mean, both pro-regime and regime is supporting some of these actors, coaches who are loyal to the regime. And for example, he was also a national team's coach for a while. Here I talked about diversity of people who go to the stadium, and so there are different people from different walks of life, working class, middle class, and this stadium provides a milieu, a place for them to communicate with each other. Now here is Karim Bagheri and Ali Dai. The other aspect of studying football is these gender norms, and in the 90s or early 2000s, football players were very masculine and machistic. But if you want to see the social change, if you go to the next one, please. This is Social Makani, and he had a SpongeBob pants, and because of that, he was punished. He was not able to play for a while, and so from that macho masculine culture, there has been a shift and support from the fans also. So he was the goalkeeper for Persepolis, and later he moved to Norway. He played in a club in Norway. So from SpongeBob pants, now we have players with tattoos this is on the thigh, right? And so again, the federation or the regime is so obsessed with the appearance, and we have Gashter Shad, which is arresting women for hijab, but now we have this morality police, and we have these football fans, and they do whatever they want, and they really don't know what to do with them. This is the news that fans are supporting him, and because federation said that it is immoral to have this tattoo on his body, and here is the news that fans supported him. So here is Masoud Shujai. He was the captain of the national team, and when women finally allowed to, they sold tickets to women and they went to the stadium. He gathered the players and they went in front of the women and they bowed and showed respect for their presence. And it was very symbolic. And so this shift is very visible from being macho, machistic and masculine, and having nothing to do with the woman issue. Now the feminist demand has been repeated by people like Masoud Shujai, who was the captain of the national team.
Okay, thank you so much. Great, thank you so much. We now have some time for questions from the audience. Please raise your hand and I will call on you.
No, I wanted to ask about nationalism factor, if there is a more direct relationship, because you are talking about sexism, gender based of this phenomenon.
Yeah.
We say football is these points which were concentrated both together, sexism and nationalism.
Football is, everywhere consolidates nationalism and this sense of belonging. Okay, in Iran, in other countries, probably Germany, right, as well. But one thing that happened during the Mahsa Jina protest, that was the World Cup, and the Iranian team had matches, and they were silent about the suppression of ordinary people in the street. So because of their silence, many people wished for their loss against the other teams, right? And it happened when they lost. Some people went to the streets and they showed some, they celebrated, because they said this is not our national team. So it's not like a one-way street, and it might consolidate nationalism, but also it provides opportunities for dissent and saying that no, if we support this team, they should do something for us. That's how it happens. Yeah. Right. We have people like Wuria Ghafuri. He has Kurdish background.
Yeah.
He was not invited to the national team, and these things are visible.
You already touched upon some parts of the roles of players, let's say, in the society. There is a spectrum, of course. Some of them are the voice of people. The other ones are the voice of the regime, Iranian regime. But specifically about women life freedom movement, what was the role of players or former stars or current stars actually in that movement? And what was their interaction with the regime and also with the opposition?
One prominent football former star was Ali Karimi. He moved out of Iran and then he started to, joining the opposition, and he chose to become a monarchist. He was in a campaign to support Reza Pahlavi, and he's using his Twitter account to write whatever he wants. But there was a very interesting interaction between him and feminists or the other, progressives, because what he says, was not the progressive language; it was the reactionary language. And also, we had other people also, like Ali Dai. His daughter was in the UK and joined the protest, and Ali Dai couldn't, I think, travel to other places. There was a ceremony, he couldn't join. But Ali Karimi was really vocal, and his former teammates, they cannot mention his name in the public TV. Also, all these details exist. But since he has audience, and then the feminists, they go to his Twitter account and they respond to him, I think it's a very interesting interaction and kind of like engagement of people with, reactionary and progressive, and at least they see each other and they see like there are people with that language, with that mindset, and also, feminists, they answer to them, and it's better than the silence, Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us, and many thanks to our speakers, Behdad, Bordbar, and Soheil Rezanejad. Thank you so much.